What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sool Radio Oscar Roundup. I'm Dan Carlin. With me, as always, is librarian, movie fan, and host of the podcast, Did You Do Your Homework? And love ya, Martha Sullivan. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm in the midst of moving from an apartment to a house, so I'm exhausted, but I'm doing okay.
Nice. How does it feel to be a homeowner for the first time?
It's really, it's a lot of different things. It's really exciting because like my husband and I can look at the house and think we would like that wall to be a different color, and then we can actually make that happen. It's very intimidating because when something goes wrong, I can't just report it to a landlord. Before we started moving in, we were having an issue in the basement where part of the foundation was leaking, and it was like, well, we got to deal with it. I can't just call somebody else and have them pay a person to come out and do it. So
yeah, I can't get the fairy to help.
Yes, that part's intimidating. But mostly it's just really exciting to have a space that we're like totally responsible for and can really do whatever we want to do with it.
Well, that is really fucking cool. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you. I'll let you know when our housewarming party happens.
Oh, absolutely. I'm fun fact, I'm going to be moving back to the Oak Park adjacent area myself come May. Nice. Either Berwyn or Forest Park, not Oak Park proper, but one of those two.
Awesome.
Yeah. So almost neighbors again. So this week we are going over CODA, the coming-of-age comedy drama film written and directed by Sian Heder. It stars Emilia Jones as the eponymous CODA, acronym for Child of Deaf Adults, the only hearing member of a deaf family. The character's name is Ruby. It explores her foray into getting into, choir, what that means for a family that is, hearing impaired. It explores family acceptance, community acceptance. This might actually be my favorite of the films we've viewed so far.
I thought it was lovely. I really appreciate when the Oscars can make space for a smaller story that is just told perfectly well. Because this is a movie that I would describe as not uncomplicated, because I think that the family relationships that it's exploring are very complicated.
Sure.
But the stakes are small. Like, we're not talking about like an empire collapsing. We're not talking about the end of the world. We're not talking about like huge conflict. We're talking about a story that is very focused on one girl and her relationships to her family and her teachers and her classmates. And just every single moving part of this movie, I thought was pitched and executed completely perfectly.
And I think the main core cast did a fantastic job. Yes. Emilia Jones as Ruby did great as the lead. I love Marlee Matlin and everything that she's in, as she played Ruby's mother.
Wonderful to see her.
Oh, she's great. Troy Kotsur as Frank is probably my favorite character.
And has a nomination for actor in a supporting role.
There you go. And there you have it. I realized probably 3/4 of the way through the film, and I wanted to go back and like transcribe some of the just like ridiculous shit he was saying in sign language.
It was so good. I was listening to another podcast to talk about this movie, and the guest on that was also a child of deaf adults, and he said that's the dialogue choices that Kotsur is making, like the specific ASL he is using, just was this really interesting mix of sort of really informal stuff, but then also very poetic. Like it was the kind of thing where I'm like, I wish I had a background in ASL so I could appreciate like the signing as it was happening rather than relying on the subtitles. but just that there was that kind of nuance in how he is communicating. Ruby's family is a fishing family. They live in an East Coast town. And one of the main conflicts of the movie is that her father and her brother rely on her being on the boat to listen for like Coast Guard signals and to be their interpreter when they're selling their fish and all of this. And she's 17 and doesn't necessarily want to do that.
Right.
And I thought that the subtleties in the relationships that are happening, like between, or the communication, not necessarily the relationships, but the communication that's happening between Ruby and her family and Ruby and the hearing people that they have to deal with. For somebody that doesn't have a background in ASL, I thought that the movie does a really good job in communicating those differences, even for someone like me who needs the subtitles to know what's going on.
Sure. One thing I think the movie did, just in regards to ASL and the differences between what that family goes through and what people who can hear go through, is they didn't portray the differences as like an impediment on the family. Mm-hmm. The father would go to a doctor's appointment and that wasn't discussed. They would just argue about how the couple couldn't have sex for 2 weeks. Or, they'd be at the dinner table and the deaf mother would be talking to the deaf son about like, why are you swiping left on her Tinder? Like what's, and like Ruby would just, argue. It's like, are we really doing this at the dinner table? Yeah. Tinder's a family activity.
We can do it together. Yeah. Her question was, why can't I listen to music when my brother can be on Tinder? And her mom's response is, well, because we can all, like, this is a family activity, because Ruby is the only person who can listen to music. I also enjoyed that when Ruby's alarm goes off in the morning at like 5:30, she jams out to super loud, like, rock music because no one else in the house, she can't wake anyone else up in the house with it.
Oh, for sure. And how the father likes gangster rap in the car specifically because the bass vibrates his ass.
Because he can feel it through his butt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really struck me, and I think that we will get into this in our next conversation as well, I thought that Amelia Jones did a fabulous job leading this movie. And one of the objections that I typically have with the Oscars is that female-driven stories either don't get Best Picture recognition, or the actors carrying those don't get lead actor recognition. I think that this movie is similar to, and I'm going to spoil things for our viewers a little bit. We're going to talk about King Richard in our next episode. I think this movie is very similar to King Richard in that it is a family story that is very focused on one member of the family and their relationships with everybody else. But Will Smith gets nominated for Best Actor. Like, sure. I think Amelia Jones does a really wonderful job in this movie, and I was bummed that because there seems to be this sort of bias against either movies focused on women, like it's not, I don't know, I'm trying not to use as much loaded language as possible, but like Will Smith is the reason that a lot of King Richard works. I think Amelia Jones is not the only reason CODA works. I think the whole cast is fabulous. No, but she's the bedrock for the rest of the cast. Right. And she's my point of view character. Like, exactly. This is a movie about deaf people for hearing people. I don't think that's controversial to say. No. And if I don't connect to Amelia Jones, like I have a harder way, like I have a harder time getting into the movie. I would love at some point to see a movie about deaf people that doesn't care so much about me as a viewer. Like, I think there's space for that as well. That's not this movie. And I'm bummed that Amelia Jones doesn't get the same kind of recognition for that. The only award I see her even being recognized for, going through the Wikipedia page, and she won, but it was the Gotham Awards back in November, Best Breakthrough Performer, which is something, but I'm genuinely surprised that she didn't get a Globe nomination. I was genuinely surprised she didn't get nominated for Best Actress. I thought she did great. And I think this movie also reminds me in a lot of ways of Brooklyn, which was nominated for Best Picture a couple of years ago, and Saoirse Ronan also was nominated for Best Actress, because without her, the movie doesn't work as well.
Oh, absolutely. What if I have to liken her performance to anybody else's? The first one that comes to mind is maybe Elliot Page in Juno, all the way back in 2007. And I don't know off the top of my head what award recognition she got for that, but it was, it reminded me of that because it was like the subdued character in the midst of all these other more absurdist characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like not only does Ruby or Juno, serve as the main protagonist, but it's also like she's the audience surrogate in a more overstated world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Elliot Page was nominated for Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role, did not win.
Okay.
Yep, nominated for the BAFTA, nominated for the SAG Awards. Yeah, nominated for a bunch of things.
Okay.
Won the Austin Film Critics Association Best Actress Award.
That checks out.
Yep. What did you think of the storyline with Ruby and her choir coach?
I didn't know what to make of it going in. It's, you can usually predict whether it's like, like a kinship type of relationship, or if it becomes like inappropriately romantic or flirtatious. And it felt like the latter the entire time. And then that moment just never happened. And I kind of felt like a weirdo for thinking that that's what was going to go down.
Well, and for me, I did not ever think of it in those terms, just because the tone of the movie is too kind for that, I think.
I see that.
Like, this is not a movie that is interested in being mean to any of its main characters. It's not really a movie that's interested, like the closest we get, the father and the brother are on the boat without Ruby, and they have an inspector on board to monitor their activities, and they end up getting pulled over by the Coast Guard because they're not responding to any of the hails or the signals because they can't hear them. Yeah. And they end up having their license suspended and a fine paid. And that was like the closest that the movie ever really got to something really awful happening. Like even when Ruby is in conflict with her family, it's not played, it is played as, and now we are going to become closer as a family. So like, I also never really doubted that she was going to get into Berkeley by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because this was not the kind of movie that would not have her go to college.
No, this was more of a like window of time, slice of life type of film, more than it was something with like an inciting incident, a climax, and a character change. They basically opened and shut the window for us for a span of maybe like 4 or 5 months.
And it was much closer to like a Disney Channel original movie rather than like a very special episode of something.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at it for that.
No.
I will say I cried a lot at the end during her audition concert. Cried very, very much, especially when she started signing for her family so that they could follow along with what she was singing.
That was sweet.
My heart.
Yeah. I did like the little gag during the first performance, the duet, where the father didn't know whether to stand up or sit down, and then he stood up a little too late, and Marley Matlin was like, no, it's done now.
Yeah. That part, the decision to, like, there are moments in the movie that are filmed from her family's perspective where they cut the sound out.
I did see that, yeah.
And I'm kind of torn over whether I thought there should have been more of that, or whether I wanted the movie to stay more with Ruby's point of view. I don't know.
It felt I like the idea of it on paper. I think in practice, just the editing of it was kind of jarring. I watched the movie with my girlfriend, and I looked at her like maybe 15 seconds into, the choir scene where the sound cuts out. I'm like, is this deliberate? Is this something with my TV? And I like started fiddling with my remote, and she's like, no, it's from the perspective of like, what are you doing? Like, it felt really sudden.
Well, and that moment I did think was very effective, because we had the conversation earlier between Ruby and her mother, where her mom's like, you're just joining choir because you're a teen and you're rebelling. Like, we can't hear, so that's why.
Sure.
That's why singing. And to have the movie shift into that mode while Coates and Matlin are like in the audience, kind of like smiling and looking around, and
right.
To be moved into their perspective when it's like, oh, they really can't hear what's happening, which seems obvious because they are both deaf.
Sure.
But that moment, and I also think I'm talking myself around to liking it, I think, because I think having that moment in the concert makes the audition moment when Ruby starts signing for them more like it's a neat callback to when she couldn't or didn't do that for the duet. So they did not have a way into what she was doing, but they did for the audition. So I think I've talked myself around to appreciating that moment.
I'm glad we could share this journey together, Martha. How do you think this movie will do awards wise?
I think maybe Coates think the Best Supporting Actor nomination or award. I think it's only nominated for 3 awards. It's Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Adapted Screenplay. And unfortunately, I don't really see it walking away with anything except for maybe a surprise. Looking at the other nominees, I think it is most likely going to hit that Supporting Actor award.
Yeah, in any other year, I probably would have given it adapted screenplay, or at least the benefit of the doubt for it.
I wouldn't, only because the movies that tend to win adapted or original screenplay also tend to be the more front runner choices for the Best Picture award. What else is in the adapted screenplay? Oh yeah, Power of the Dog.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Unfortunately.
If Power of the Dog didn't get it, Dune would have gotten it.
We talked about that last time. I still think that this is going to be Dune got like 10 nominations. I don't think it's winning anything. I think it's winning everything in a couple of years.
Yeah, no, it has Return of the King syndrome. We did discuss this. I remember now. All right. Going to what is in the news, Oscar-wise. So it was announced that the Oscars are going to hold a Twitter fan vote for favorite film of the year. What is your take on it? And
okay, I have a lot of takes on this. So first of all, this has very strong energy to when they tried to when they talked about introducing the like popular film Oscar.
Sure.
A couple of years ago, which was basically, hey guys, we're never going to give Best Picture to a superhero movie, so this is what you get. I feel very strongly that they were like, people are going to be mad that Spider-Man didn't get any nominations, so we will give them this People's Choice type award and let them like strong arm Spider-Man into the ceremony.
Sure.
However, the internet is a terrible place. Yes, would you like to know the 3 movies that are most hotly in contention for this?
Yes, I do.
They are Army of the Dead by Zack Snyder.
Nice.
They are the Camila Cabello Cinderella. on
Sweet.
Netflix. And the last one is, what is it called? See, I don't pay attention to Johnny Depp anymore, so I don't remember.
Oh, there you go.
It is Johnny Depp put out a movie this year, Minamata, which I've never heard of before. But the Johnny Depp stans are apparently coming out of the woodwork. So these are the three movies, and it's probably going to be Cinderella, which I think is the funniest shit I've ever heard.
It reminds me a lot of way back in the day when like when American Idol was first starting out and Howard Stern like coerced millions of people into keeping this one dude who was terrible all the way to the finals just because he thought it would be funny. And it's just like, what's he doing there?
Yeah, so let's see. Current leaderboard. Okay, so the current leaderboard has Army of the Dead in first, followed by Cinderella and Dune. Also Malignant. Minamata. Malignant was an HBO Go or HBO Max original horror movie directed by James Wan that came out a few months ago.
Okay.
It's wild. But yeah, we also have Minamata, The Power of the Dog, Sing 2, Spider-Man, The Suicide Squad, and Tick Tick Boom. So
Sing 2, all right.
That's hilarious.
That's pretty great.
The Army of the Dead stands are out here accusing the Camila Cabello stands of having bots to vote. I just think they don't like the idea of a pop star driven musical focused at teen girls.
This whole thing, in my opinion, has the same energy that we were discussing in our Don't Look Up episode, where it's like a bunch of, probably older Gen Xers decide, like, assuming what these damn kids are into. It's like voting on Twitter. Yes. That'll get people to come on.
It is. Every time the Oscars pulls some kind of stunt like this, it's like, you don't have to do this. All this does is make people laugh at you. I am very much of the camp that the Oscars should be like 8 hours long and just fully self-indulgent, celebrating like movies. And it should get rid of, it was great when they got rid of the hosts. They should get rid of all of the stupid skits, keep the montages because I love a montage, but like, they don't need it. It's all set dressing and it all weights it down way too much. I'm like, either throw in an award for like the highest grossing movies in a year, or just don't mess around with Twitter fan contests. The internet is horrible and people shouldn't be allowed to vote in something like this.
This is very true. I mean, to your point, this is a kind of a perfect segue. They are also cutting up to 8 awards out of the telecast. Do you think that's going to be in favor of sketches or, set dressing or other kind of side acts?
Yes, I do. And I think it's a dumb idea and they should feel bad about themselves. They tried to do this in 2019 with the same set of awards. So for anybody who is not familiar with what is happening, the Oscars has announced that they will be awarding off air the Oscars for the documentary short, film editing, makeup and hairstyling, original score, production design, animated short, live action short, and sound design. This is wild. This is insanity. Like, these are fundamental parts of movie making that they're just like, we're going to award them before the red carpet and just show you clips throughout the show. And it's like, but this is why I watched the show. When they tried to do it in 2019, they got so much backlash that they didn't. I'm hoping that that happens again this year. I guess the entire original score slate of nominees has said that they won't come if this happens, which I don't blame them. So they are also looking for like other nominee categories to boycott if this happens. And I really, really hope that the Academy pulls back on this, because again, I think trying to make the ceremony snappier is a mistake. The people who watch the Oscars want to celebrate all of these things. And the people who don't want to watch the Oscars are not going to, just because you've decided to cut a couple of the awards.
Yeah, I think the Oscars is, one of those rare, very occasional enterprises where you don't need to always necessarily update things for what kids are into, where technology's going, what the trends are. It's just one of those like tried and true, timeless formulas, and it's probably best not to fuck with it in most cases.
And the producers are very freaked out because the ratings were down like 50% last year. The show was weird last year. COVID was happening last year. Many people were depressed. The show was like very lightly attended. It was weirdly put together. I don't think they should have had it. But like making anything that happened last year your metric for what to change for this year, I think is a mistake and like weird decision making.
Yeah, this time last year we were at the very top of the vaccine rollout. We didn't have regulations down. We were kind of at the tail end of that beginning phase of COVID where we didn't know what would happen if you do X or Y. Like if I get food delivered and I touch it, am I going to get COVID and die?
And a lot of the people who attended the ceremony live, like you can tell, it felt weird. Frances McDormand, bless her heart, wore a mask the entire ceremony.
Good for her.
I know. And every time the camera cut to her, because I believe the production choice was supposed to be that attendees would wear masks unless the camera was on them to kind of preserve the illusion. And Frances McDormand was like, nah, masked the whole time. It was fabulous.
Yeah, I think during the Golden Globes last year, they cut to stock footage of the audience from previous years, which was equally strange.
Yeah, that tracks.
Martha, where can we find you if we want to look more into your podcasting, writing backlog of previous work?
Sure. So I record 2 other podcasts that you can find on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your shows. They are Did You Do Your Homework and Love Ya. Did You Do Your Homework is an academic exploration of different themes in popular media. And Love Ya is an analytical podcast where I watch a rom-com or a teen movie with my co-host Maren Hagman and then talk about it in detail. Both of those update on the same feed, so if you just search for Did You Do Your Homework, you'll be able to find both of them. You can find me independently at Magical Martha on all social media streams, including a tiny letter that I update whenever I feel like it. And that is at tinyletter.com/Magical Martha.
There it is. I'm Dan. That's Martha. There's Paulie. Got to keep the consistency going.
Bye, Paulie.
Look at him. He got a bed, and he's just he's dead to the world now.
So fancy.